What does it mean to factor by grouping? Now, generally when we factor, we think of trinomials or maybe a binomial, but factoring by grouping is really for larger polynomials. So if we have a polynomial that is more than 3 terms, as always, we first look for a common factor. Then, if there is no common factor, or after we've factored out a common factor, then we look for groups that have a common factor, and we go from there. So for example, if I have a 4-term polynomial, as you see here, x cubed minus x squared plus 2x minus 2, and I want to factor this, well, they do not have a common factor, right? This last term is missing an x, so there's no common factor. But I can break them up into 2 groups of 2. So I can say, okay, on the left here, I have a group that has a common factor, and on the right, I have a group that has a common factor. So let's play with each group individually. So on the left, x cubed minus x squared, the common factor is x squared. So if I factor out that common factor from just those 2, I have left x minus 1. Okay, so that factored the left piece. On the right, 2x minus 2. Well, the common factor there is a positive 2. And when I factor out the positive 2, I'm left with x minus 1. Now you'll notice, essentially, I have 2 terms, and they have a common factor of x minus 1. So now if I say, well, I will factor out an x minus 1, so if I factor that out front, what do I have left? X squared plus 2. And that is factoring by grouping with more than 3 terms. I want to do one more that's just maybe a little bit more difficult. So now I have the 4-term polynomial, x to the 5th plus 5x to the 3rd minus 3x squared minus 15. There's a couple of different ways that you can do this, but I'll tell you right now, my brain sees 5x cubed and negative 15. I know that 5 goes into both of those very easily. So I'm going to make my 2 groups, x to the 5th minus 3x squared, right? That minus sign just has to go with it. And then I have plus 5x cubed minus 15. So I kind of created 2 groups. Now, because we're factoring by grouping, I take out the GCF of each group. So take out an x squared of this first one. That leaves me with x cubed minus 3. In the second group, I can take out a plus 5, which leaves me with x cubed minus 3. Now, we can see each one of these has an x cubed minus 3. So if I take the x cubed minus 3 out, what am I left with? X squared plus 5. And if you're not sure if that works, you could always multiply this out using the FOIL method or the double distribution, depending on how you learned it, and you should end up with the same thing we started.